Hi and welcome back to Garden Ninja and season's greetings because it's December. Now I've pretty much eaten my entire body weight in mince pies and Christmas cake and it's time to get back out into the garden, get some fresh air and show you lovely lots of what I've been up to in December in my latest garden tour. So put down your Christmas cake, put on your waterproof slippers and come on, let's go and have a look. Now December's a great time to plant bare root shrubs and trees, and I've already covered this in a number of videos and blog articles, so make sure you check those out. To my right is a quince tree, and I planted this in February as a bare root this year. They also use less plastic, there's less carbon footprint with them, they're all around just a better option for the discerning gardener. So if you care about the environment, definitely have a look at bare root trees and plants to plant in winter rather than waiting to spring and summer to go and buy your plants from a garden centre. Now I've also got this rose that I planted as a bare root, and this is called Bengal Crimson, and it will turn into quite a large shrub or it will scramble up this tree. It's got one of those dual habits. So I've planted it here, I've put loads of organic matter in, and by next summer it'll probably be up to about here and it will start to colonise the tree. Now another top tip with bare root trees is that you're going to have to prune them every year, and it may feel counterproductive and it may crush your soul a bit to see them put on loads of growth each summer to then start pruning them back, but it's really important. So use your pruning knowledge to take back each of those laterals and those branches to force energy into other side shoots, and then you're not only going to get more fruits but you're going to be able to get that beautiful open goblet tree shape that you might want in a more balanced tree. Don't just let them grow and grow and grow because you'll get all sorts of crossed and twisted branches. Winter is a really interesting time when it comes to pruning, and with fruit trees in particular you've got two pruning windows. You've got summer pruning, which is for fruits and flowers and to restrict the shape of a tree, and then you've got winter pruning, which is to help increase the vigour of a plant and get it into a shape ready to produce fruit next year. A lot of people confuse winter pruning with being able to restrict growth, when it's the reverse. Winter pruning will encourage growth in the spring, so you need to bear that in mind, that whatever you take off, the next set of laterals are going to have more energy to fire off their own growth. So you may have seen my other video on winter pruning, which I go into loads of detail about how to winter prune various trees and shrubs. Behind me is a really old pear tree, probably about 25 to 30 years old, and when I moved in it was in a real sorry state. We had crossing branches, diseased bits, dead bits, bits that had rubbed together and caused damage. So I've undertaken a 2-year renovation project on this pear, and it's still underway, but I just want to give you a few top tips. So when I came to this pear tree, it was really overgrown, it had all sorts of messy branches. So the first year I thinned out probably half of those branches. I took them back. It was like, if it's in the way, if it's not growing where I want it to be, it's gone. The second year was then shortening back some of the new growth. So when you prune in winter, what you're really doing is taking off a branch and you're sending all the energy next year back to the next set of side shoots or further down into the tree or shrub. So if you take a look at this branch here behind me, you'll see that I've made a pruning cut just here where my thumb is, and I've taken off about a third of that branch, because what I want to happen is, rather than the growth get longer and longer and longer, and the branch get heavier and heavier, and the fruit gets smaller and smaller, I want to divert all the energy back into these other laterals here. So all that spent energy goes into here, it will then produce other buds, other side shoots and fruits, and then in the summer I can prune off some of that excess growth, and then all that energy should go into some new pears. Now for all you naysayers that say that you don't like grasses and you don't know why I go on about them so much, take a look behind me. Now we're near the end of December, the grasses here, we've got the miscanthus, we've got the calamagrostis, are still giving amazing shape and form to the garden. My other point about always including evergreen shrubs is evidenced here with this privet. If I didn't have shrubs in these borders to give that structure through the winter, along with the grasses, they're going to look really flat and really dull. So it's about thinking ahead when you're planning your borders and having a mix of plants for each season. The grasses are looking fantastic. This evergreen privet is giving a bit of oomph to the border, and it means that I can be a bit lazier during the winter months rather than having to try and hide bare patches. Now this bed's a really good example of how you can use grasses and heights to keep your winter interest. If you've followed my vlogs, you'll have seen that this is the prairie border, and in the middle of summer it's a riot of oranges, yellows and reds, and we're using prairie style planting to give drifts of colour throughout. However, in the winter it's still interesting because you've got all these dried seed heads on the grasses, you've got the bare skeleton of the Carpinus tree here, you've got another one over there, so there's still interest. If I'd have just used herbaceous perennials, they'd have died down and I'd be left with not much more than some bare earth. So it is worthwhile always factoring in height and succession planting whenever you're designing your own borders. Now this bed is a great example of how using evergreen shrubs like this Hebe purple pixie will help continue the season throughout the winter. So behind me we've got some ferns, we've got all sorts of shady loving herbaceous stuff. Then you've got these Hebes, you've got one here, one over there, and they just give a real body to this bed. If you didn't have them, you'd have your ferns still and your grasses, but it would look a bit barren. So by including those evergreen shrubs and specimens, you're helping to extend the season and just make your garden borders look so much more fabulous all year round. One of my favourite jobs to do in December is to mulch the garden. And I've got a really shady border that runs down the drive. The soil is really poor, so every year I'm trying to improve it. The best way to do that is not with fertiliser, but it's with mulch. So I've got a load of leaf mould here that I've made myself from all the fallen leaves. You could use compost, you can use animal manure, whatever your preference is. But I'm layering a good inch or two on top of the soil, which will then be broken down and feed the plants, increase moisture, add a bit of air, bacteria and all sorts of beneficial goodies to the soil. And I do this in December, ready for spring, so that all the plants have got the best possible start each year. And I've already noticed that after 2 years of mulching what was pretty much rock hard compacted earth, I'm now starting to get much finer and richer soil down the drive. Now mulching's super easy. All you really need to do is to cover the soil around your plants with a thick layer of organic matter. In this case I'm using homemade leaf mould. It's full of gorgeous bacteria. It will help the plants, it will retain moisture, and it will let Mother Nature do what she does best, which is balance everything out. If you caught my video on borrowed views back in September, you'll know that I was renovating a really old, out of shape hedge, and I was telling you how if you're brave, you can bring a hedge back from the dead. So if I squat down, you'll see behind me here, I'll go the right way, that the privet hedge here is all starting to send up new growth. And even though it's December, you can see that this hedge is going to look amazing in another year or two. It's already put on that growth. We've cut it down by nearly half, and it just shows you the power of pruning. Mother Nature is a strong woman, and she will send growth back if you prune properly. So it really is in your benefit to prune things and try and reuse as much as you can in the garden, rather than just pulling it out and starting again. So there we have it, my garden tour of December here at Garden Ninja HQ. And there are a few take-home tips. The first is that you should really try and consider bare root planting rather than buying container plants in summer. They're cheaper, there's more variety, and they're easier to establish. Secondly, don't be afraid of pruning. Pruning your deciduous trees and shrubs now will help invigorate all that growth next year. So if you've got a tree or a shrub that's looking a bit naff, hasn't put on much fruit, December and January are the prime times to prune them. And I've got loads of pruning videos on my blog and vlog here, so check those out. And lastly, it's just to make sure that you're giving the garden the best start in spring, and that's why I always mulch in December. You've seen me using leaf mould, you can use homemade compost that you buy at the garden centre, but by mulching now, you're giving your ground the best start for spring and helping to invigorate poor soil and improve drainage. Now that you've got all that down, all I can say is thanks for watching me this year. Make sure you subscribe, tell your friends. I do this because it's my passion. So if you enjoy these videos, drop me a comment below. If you've got questions, let me know. Spread the word and we can help make everyone's gardens awesome. I've been Garden Ninja, happy gardening and happy new year.